What? Hello. Um, okay, we are here to talk about the Kenobi finale that we just watched.
We're here to try to discuss this. I feel like just disclaimer, we just freshly watched this for the first time. So I feel like we are a little bit overwhelmed. And I feel like we haven't really processed it completely. So if we're all over the place a little bit, keep that in mind. We're going to try to talk about it as coherently as we can.
Yes.
So
Um, we do want to go live. We actually forgot to say that in our reaction video.
yes, but we are going to go live after the weekend, after everybody has a chance to watch it. We're gonna go live probably Monday. We said, right? Like
Yeah,
Monday night.
yeah. I would say probably because we're assuming people work and stuff like that. So it'll probably be maybe like Monday at like 7, like 7:30.
Yeah, around there. So definitely keep notifications on so you get an alert when we do go live. But we're very excited to do that because I feel like it'll give us a little bit of time to go back and rewatch it a couple times. That way we could really talk in depth about it, which would be more in our live. This we're going to talk about it, but I feel like the in depth stuff will come more so in our live because we'll have more time to kind of look at things. So yeah.
I'm already like itching. Like I was just rewatching some bits and pieces of it, and there's just so much to absorb in the material. Like especially when you go through episodes like 1 to 6. Like if like as a whole, it was just such an amazing show, you guys. Like it was just so good, the whole thing, and it was everything that we wanted. It really was, and I feel like you know some things that I know people were complaining about. Some people complained about like oh, okay. So if you have not seen Kenobi, we're going to talk about spoilers now. I feel like I should say that before we really discuss anything. We're going to talk
Yeah, I
about
feel like that's kind of obvious, but just in case you're not aware, we are going to talk about the whole season and this episode probably, like,
yeah.
and also like probably Star Wars movies. So if you haven't seen anything Star Wars or you don't want to be spoiled on certain things, you probably just don't want to watch this. Yeah,
I really love the choice that they made to put the music at the end of the show
me
because
too. I feel like it was more impactful that way, and it was more powerful and more it was definitely overwhelming to hear the Imperial March. I love that they waited until that moment because it really just killed you at that point.
I think it was also a really good transition into A New Hope as well, going forward in the
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars franchise and, Rogue One and that hopeful feel, And I feel like that was really smart because, I mean, listen, Rogue One is not one of my favorite Star Wars movies just because it's so sad. But the ending of that movie is probably one of is like amazing. Like it's one of like the best things from Disney Star Wars as well. Like I loved seeing how that transitions into A New Hope. So I really love that in Kenobi, which takes place before that, obviously, we got that as well. And
Mm-hmm.
the characters like hearing Leia's theme, that was so beautiful at that moment. Like I know I'm like jumping right to that part, but like I
No,
love
definitely. I feel like that was the right moment for it too.
yeah.
Like if we had put those themes in like the beginning of the show, I don't think it would have as big of an impact as it did. I think everybody would have been excited about it. But I feel like it was the right choice to leave it towards the end.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I all right. So I mean, I also like let's start from the beginning and try to process our way through this.
Okay.
Um, so the beginning of the episode, Obi-Wan is seeing all these people who are on the ship. The ship is being attacked from Vader and all the Inquisitors, and they're just attacking the ship, and the ship is filled with innocent people. And Obi-Wan knows what he has to do. He knows that it's not about the people, it's about him and Anakin. It's about him and Darth Vader. And he owns up to that. And we saw that also last episode, and we saw that in episode 3 of this season, but I think this one felt very final, and the way that Obi-Wan was like, okay, like I need to face him, I need to finish this, like we're gonna go alone on a planet and
Yeah.
just duke this out. Like, it was
It's
very,
interesting too to like try to understand Obi-Wan's thoughts in that moment because I feel like for him he is looking for something, like some kind of closure or some like is a part of him hoping that like he can get through to him, or is he just going there with the full intent on destroying him, or is there a little part of him that's like, maybe there's still good in him, like I don't know. It's very interesting to think about what he's thinking in that moment because it is like, I don't know. It's just so interesting, the
yep,
relationship and
it
just
is. Especially, yeah, like, I agree. I think that this was closure for him as well. And we see that he says at the end, like, how he also feels kind of like a weight's been lifted and he feels free as well. Because I think deep down he did wonder if he could get his friend back. Because how could you not? And
it
then,
also goes back to when Riva had said to him um like is that really what you want, or said something like that along the lines of like can you kill Anakin like that's
yeah,
you're gonna destroy Anakin.
Obi-Wan feel this guilt over what happened on Mustafar with Anakin and how he was basically haunted by that for 10 years, right? He was haunted by that, and he was also haunted by what he became once he realized he was alive, because if you think about it, he thought he killed him until this show, right? He thought he killed him until this show, and he saw he was alive, and like, and then in episode 3 when they fight and he sees the physical differentiation between Anakin and Darth Vader, and how he is physically a different person, like he's become a machine, right? And I think that because he's become this machine, it was also kind of hard for Obi-Wan to think of that as his friend, and think of that as Anakin Skywalker, and think of that as the brother he had, and the child he basically raised, if you think about it, from after Qui Gon passed away. Obi-Wan took over, and that was his Padawan, and that was that was a deep friendship. And I think it was really hard for him to come to terms with who he is as well. And yeah, and I think in this episode, when he broke the mask and he broke through to the man underneath the machine the outfit, right?
Yeah.
Broke through to it, and he saw firsthand Anakin again, and he hasn't seen Anakin since that fateful night on Mustafar when the
Mhm.
whole thing went down. So to see it again, and to witness and to be at that moment again that had haunted him, it was heartbreaking. And I think it was the
Yeah.
closure he needed to kind of get again in his mind. Like, he saw like the transition of like the blue eyes to the yellow eyes, like
Mhm.
the even the coloration of that scene, the blue, the red, it was the conflict in him. And that was Anakin talking at that moment. That wasn't Darth Vader. I feel like, honestly, this
You could
in
even hear it in his voice how it like was a hint of Vader, but you could hear more of like Hayden.
yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
interesting in that moment too. Had in the past episode where he first has that confrontation with Vader, and it's so jarring for him to, like you said, see him be like more machine than man, and he says like I am what you made me. He says to him, right?
Mhm.
And it's interesting how it's this moment where he takes half the mask off and like breaks his mask, and he sees Anakin. That was like the moment where like Anakin kind of like relieves Obi-Wan of that guilt a little bit and like tells him like that it wasn't him.
Yeah.
um it's interesting that it's in that moment where he like takes that weight off of him a little bit, and it's like it's interesting to like to think why would Anakin say that to him.
I
Is it only because like he wants the credit of like becoming bad and going to the dark side, or does he know that that's weighing on Obi-Wan, and like a little part of him is still like that's my friend, and like I don't know, it's so like
It is. It's it's
No.
I love Star Wars so much. Like I love this, like it's so tragic and it is so painful, but it is such an crazy story of love and friendship and hope and tragedy. But
Mm.
it's like I really, yeah, I think. And when you think of when you think of Vader and what he sees behind the mask, like he's wearing a mask, right? He sees probably like red, like his vision is probably not as clear as it was when Obi-Wan broke half the mask. And so I think he was also seeing his friend for the first time as well, like clearly, you know. And I think yeah, just I just love how he said that. He said Anakin's gone. And it was, and it was also kind of very Return of the Jedi, how he's like, you know, don't use that name. It's not my name. Not Anakin
Mm.
anymore. I killed him. And in Anakin's mind, he feels that Darth Vader is a different person than Anakin Skywalker. Anakin Skywalker was a hero,
Mm.
right? Anakin Skywalker was a hero. He was a Jedi.
And I
He
feel like it's also like that in Obi-Wan's mind too, because even in A New Hope, the way that he talks about Anakin is more like, he's a great fighter, he's this, and he was a good friend. And then, when you talk about like when he was talking to Luke, he said like he was betrayed and murdered
by
to your
Darth Vader.
daughter, Darth Vader. So it is very separate in Obi-Wan's mind as well.
I think it's become separate. I think this, that's what I really love. Like, I feel like this made it separate for him. Like I feel like this made it a very differentiate for him. Like I think getting that confirmation from Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker is dead. You didn't kill him. I did. Like it was very much like I did this to myself and I am aware I did this to myself.
Yeah.
And it was yeah, like, you know, you didn't kill Anakin. Like Anakin is dead. You didn't kill him. I did. I'm Darth Vader now.
He's
And
taking responsibility for his choices and his actions.
I
Yeah.
think the reaction was just really extra devastating. Like the tears in Obi-Wan's eyes and how that was the first time he really stepped back and he realized like this is Anakin. And
It is, but it's not. That's what it was so painful to watch because it's like he's seeing his Anakin's face, like half of it, but it's not him. And I feel like that did give Obi-Wan the closure. Like he needed to hear
yeah.
Vader say that like Anakin's gone for him to fully understand that. I don't know. Oh,
And I think he also thought in his head, like if you remember Padme, after Order 66, she still believes that there was good in Anakin. And that is her like last words to Obi-Wan. Like when she dies giving birth, she says to him there's still good in him.
mhm.
And I think Obi-Wan did hold on to that. I think he did. And
Right. I think a small part of him was like holding on to that even when he like went to face him. I don't think he 100% was completely convinced he was going to destroy him.
yeah. No, I don't think so either. And I think I loved, like, I can't, the writing in this show is so good and it's so has so many different meanings when you think about it. But I loved when he said, when he apologized, when he said I'm sorry for all of
Hmm.
it. It was such a heartfelt apology. And you know, you think, what is he apologizing for? He's apologizing for how everything went down. He's also apologizing for like decapitating his legs and arms and leaving him there in the
I feel like
fire.
it's so much more than that though too. I
Yeah.
feel like he's just sorry for maybe not realizing just how how much Anakin was going through before he got to that point and
Mhm.
like not realizing it before and he feel it's that responsibility that Obi-Wan feels.
Mhm.
Um yeah, it's just very devastating.
No, that's exactly it. It's that feeling of he's apologizing for the Jedi Council and how terribly they treated him,
Right.
and he's apologizing for not being the friend that Anakin needed at the time, and that he didn't see the path that he was going to be going down. And um even when they appear together and Vader gets off the ship and they just stare at each other for a minute. Like, it's like this entire show has been about revenge. It's been about getting back something for Vader, and having that vengeance, and it's been about closure eventually for Obi-Wan. Like, it was very personal. Like, this was very personal. This was not like Darth Vader. Like, that was Anakin. This entire show, I feel like, was Anakin. And when they're facing each other and he's like, "Oh, are you going to destroy me, Obi-Wan?" And I think, like you said, I think Obi-Wan also feels the responsibility that he has to, because he let this happen.
Yeah.
And I love how he was like, "I will do what I must," because it was just very much like that's what he says to him. Like,
Oh
I
my
will.
gosh, I love the parallel and how Anakin Vader, because I can't really call him Anakin, how Vader was like, you will die,
Yeah.
which is very different from when he said, you will try. Because at that moment, Vader was made up his mind, like he needed to destroy Obi-Wan.
Yeah. We have not completed Rebels, you guys. Don't kill us. Not
Yeah,
completed.
so I know a lot of you guys are going to comment about Rebels, because of all the parallel in this episode. We try not to look too much into it just because we haven't seen Rebels. We've seen it's hard on Twitter not to get spoiled. But we haven't seen we haven't watched any scenes from Rebels that have to do with the parallel in this episode. So definitely don't go too much into detail about that. We
No,
are going to watch it.
but we are aware that when they do face each other, we are aware that Ahsoka does as well break the mask.
Yeah, we've seen pictures on Twitter.
Yes,
Just
and
so many feelings. I can't even. It just makes me more excited now to watch Rebels too.
it really does. But I love that it was Obi-Wan and Ahsoka who were probably the most important people to Anakin. Besides Padme, they were like the most important people to him, and
Yeah.
it was them that broke the mask. And I'm obsessed with the concept of that it was them that broke the mask, but it was Luke who took it off completely.
Yeah.
Like, I am obsessed with that idea. Like, I mean, I love also the symbolism of the mask in general. Like, that's from like Revenge of the Sith. Like, I love that it was, the fire takes over Anakin, and then he's put in like a different costume, basically. Like, he's a different person. He becomes Darth Vader, and it's a really good transition. And the mask behind it all is just like that they broke through to get to the man underneath,
Hmm.
and it was Obi-Wan who did it.
But
Is
it's it's only
half of it.
cracked. It's only
Half,
broken, so it's it can't.
not
It's not fully off until obviously Luke, which a lot of feelings that it's his son that ultimately saves him in the end.
there are so many like parallels to Return of the Jedi also, with the dialogue, like how it was like then my father's truly gone, and it was like then my friend is gone with Obi-Wan. Like, it was just like it's a lot. It's a lot. And also Luke, I love that it was Luke and Leia who got through to Obi-Wan when he was buried underneath the rocks, right?
Oh my gosh, that was one of my favorite parts of this episode. I love how he was thinking about that because you know what it reminded me of? Do you remember in Harry Potter that moment when Voldemort is in Harry's head and he's basically infecting his head and telling him how he's going to lose, and then Harry fights back in his head and tells him you're going to lose because you don't know friendship or love, and I feel sorry for you. And how the whole thing with Harry and Voldemort was we have something worth fighting for, and I feel like it really reminded me of that because
Oh my
Obi-Wan in
God,
that moment used Obi-Wan in that moment used his really great memories of Leia and Luke, and it was just like him thinking of them like that was like his will to like fight and live,
Yeah.
basically, because that's, Luke and Leia protecting them has become at that point like Obi-Wan's, I don't even know, like that's just like his reason for living
Yeah.
almost. I mean, that sounds like really
No, but it is, yeah.
dramatic, but it's kind of true in a way. Like that's like his purpose in that at that like point in his life. Um, so yeah, that just really reminded me of that moment. Anakin fights with anger and hatred and the dark side, and then you have Obi-Wan who's fighting with like light and like all of those like good feelings and all that. So yeah, I really love that.
That was yeah, it really was just like that. It
Yeah.
really it showed the difference between them and how good always ends up winning, because after that he was so powerful. I love the shot when he has his arms raised and like the rocks and stuff, and
Almost like godly, like the rocks just come up, and yeah, that was very, very powerful scene. That was probably, I mean, that whole like that part up until like the conversation with Vader slash Anakin, that was like my favorite part of this
yeah.
episode, maybe of the whole show, honestly.
It honestly, that whole thing is probably one of my favorite Star Wars scenes. Like, it's up there for me. Like,
Yeah, like ever. Like
yeah. It was just beautifully written. I'm telling you, Deborah Chow, she also did Mandalorian. Like, she just loves Star Wars, and you could tell with the writing of the show that she loves Star
Mhm.
Wars, and you could see it in like the dialogue, like I am what you made me, versus him saying, "You didn't kill Anakin, I did."
Yeah.
And I also love that there was like a whole like rebel fleet there, right? That they were going after, and like the Inquisitor's just like, why are we gonna go after one Jedi when we have a whole rebel base right here that we
Right, like
can
the
go
obsession with them just going after each other,
after?
like nothing else
No,
matters.
all about Kenobi.
Yeah.
Love that. That was like, it was a personal thing,
Mhm.
really was. And yeah, I loved Obi-Wan's arc. I really did. I loved seeing him laugh with Leia, and I loved Leia at the end, like the theme.
Yeah, I just love the progression of Obi-Wan in the show. We start out and he's just so defeated and weak, and it's like hard to watch because it's like that's not Obi-Wan. And then we get to the point where we finally see him start to fight back little and little, and it's like, yes, that's Obi-Wan. And we see him fighting again, and yeah, I feel like he's so much lighter. Like,
Yeah.
you can like feel that weighing on him, just the guilt and just everything is just weighing on Obi-Wan, and he's haunted by Anakin and haunted by everything. He has those horrible flashbacks of everything, and I feel like by the end of the show, we got him to the point where he felt hope within Leia and Luke, and he wasn't like holding all of that. So yeah, I thought that was really well done.
I also love that he was able to talk to Leia about her parents again, because he was always kind of dodging that, like, my biological mother and father, right? And he
I
was
feel like it was also just, like too painful for him to talk about.
yeah, I think so too, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that he was able to give her something at the end and be
Hmm.
like, you are just like them, like, this is what you got
Yeah.
from your mother, this is what you got from your father. And it was just, oh, like, I
And it's like
love.
that was enough for Leia too, because she even says like, "Oh, you don't have to like, you don't like tell me anything more." Like she didn't really need anything more. That was enough for her because she has two great parents right now. But it was just enough for her. It was a nice moment.
It was beautiful. It was beautifully written. Like, I love that they were able to have that. And when he first calls her Princess Leia Organa, and that's when the theme plays. And I love that he gave her like the holster. Like, I thought that was so
It's funny
cool.
how she was like, "I'm not gonna give you a blaster. You're 10." He's like, "But you won't always be."
Yeah, like, it was just like that's what I'm saying. Like, the writing, and how, you know, even when he's talking to Bale, right? And he says something like, "Let's hope we don't need you again." Like, let's hope that in the future, like, we don't need you.
Yeah.
And I love how how Obi-Wan was like, if you do, you can always tell me, like, come to me. And he
Yeah.
tells it to Leia too. And then it's like the whole like, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're
Oh,
my only hope.
it's so many feelings, so many feelings. I just love like how this show, a show like this, you could put in all those parallels. It was just so wonderful.
Like it ties in so well with
Hmm.
the prequels. Like, I mean, I feel like I said this already, but it is literally like a love a love letter to all of like the prequel fans. It
Yeah.
really is. But it's also a love letter to the original series, like the original trilogy, because it had a lot of really parallels there too. Even like, even if you think about it, how it was Vader destroyed your father to Luke, right? And then when Luke is facing him as Vader, he's like, yeah, you killed my father. No, I am your father. And it was kind of that transition of Vader owning up to being Anakin for the first time.
Yeah.
And yeah, like when you think about it, like all like the little things like that,
Yeah.
right? And you know how it was Luke who ended up getting through to him in the end. And but yeah, let's talk about how we saw the Emperor as well as Qui Gon.
That was exciting. Um, I feel like it's just, you hate the Emperor, but at the same time, it's really exciting to see him.
It was cool to see him, but oh man, do I hate that man.
Yeah. I just
Like
kept thinking, like, you're gonna cause trouble, like, so many movies.
so many movies, so many movies.
Like,
Like I like it's funny, like 'cause I was like rewatching a little bit of Attack of the Clones, and oh my god, when he was with Anakin, I'm like, oh, just stay away from him, just stay away from him, just stay away from him.
oh,
It's like you rewatch hoping for a different ending, and of course you don't get that ending.
mhm.
But yeah, like I just like Palpatine. He just like makes me itch. Like he's just uh and then Qui-Gon at the
Qui-Gon. I was so excited to see Qui-Gon. I love that we got to see him because Obi-Wan has been trying to talk to this
end.
man, and I think it's funny how Qui-Gon was wondering when you were gonna show up. He's just like, really?
Like I was always with you.
Um,
Yeah.
but it needed to be at the end in that moment because Obi-Wan wasn't ready to see him. Like he wasn't there yet. So
Yeah.
I
I
thought
think
that was really good. How he's like, "Oh, we have work to do," and it's them walking off, which is very hopeful tone as well.
I know I love that because it's also it feels very much like the adventure continues. That's how it
Yeah.
is very much like the adventure continues. It's not
Mhm.
over yet. So I mean they can technically do a second season. I would love a second season so much. I would
Me
love
too.
I want more of all of this. I really do. I want more of it. But like I hope that like I feel like Ewan and Hayden, they want to come back. Like they love these characters and they love playing it, and like they would come back for whatever Star Wars needs them for. So I don't think that this is the last we'll see of them. I'm hoping we see some of them maybe in Ahsoka. I'm hoping maybe we'll hear some good news in September of them coming back with a season 2 or like another kind of show. Like I want
Maybe. I don't want to get my hopes up, but I hope they do.
yeah, but they left it with the story continues.
Yeah.
And I do know that we have Andor coming up as well. So I'm wondering if we're going to see like Haja and the other guy Broken. I'm hoping that like I'm wondering if we're going to see some of that, cuz that was technically like the beginning of a little bit like the rebels, like the path and all that. Like
Mhm.
I'm hoping we see that in Andor as well. So I'm gonna rewatch Rogue One before we watch Andor.
Yeah,
um,
that's a good idea.
but yeah, I'm very excited for that. And oh my god, we have to mention how they put in the word hello there. Like they had him say
That was
hello
really,
there.
really exciting. And I love that we didn't. I think there was one moment where he could have said that line. There was like one specific moment that I remember in the show where we're like, oh, he should have threw it in there. But I love that and it was the finale and it was in that moment.
When he
Um,
meets Luke.
and it was Luke and it's just a lot of feelings.
Yeah, and I love that he got to give him that chip. And I love that we also saw the pose, like that iconic pose of Obi-Wan.
Yes. I love
It
that.
was
His
just,
pose, his signature pose.
and they waited until the end, like the finale, the last like showdown between the two of them to put it in. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
it was so brilliant to do that. It was
it
so
was just
smart to wait till the finale.
I just feel like everything I wanted was in here. We got Padme mentions, like we got mentions of like them together, like the mother, like the
Oh
father,
yeah, I love
like
how like
music. We
you know,
got
Padme has been gone for so long, and I love how relevant she still is, and like how we hear about her and you feel her like presence almost in like this
yeah.
show. Um, yeah,
No, you really do. Like even though, Natalie Portman, we didn't see her, we still felt Padme enough. Like there were so many mentions of him looking at Leia and being like, "You're just like your mother."
yeah, definitely.
Like it was brilliant. This whole thing. Like bravo Star Wars. Like it was wonderful. It really was such a treat.
I love Luke
Luke,
in this
Luke,
episode.
yeah. Luke.
Luke in this episode, very the way that it went back and forth too. Like we had the everything going on with Obi-Wan and Anakin, and it was going back and forth, and it didn't give you a moment to breathe because it's like you're trying to process everything that's happening with Obi-Wan and Anakin, and then it's going back to Reva chasing Luke, and he's in danger, and it's just like so that was like a lot the way it went back and forth. It just built the suspense, and like my anxiety was just like through the roof. It was just a lot.
It, uh,
Um,
yeah. I loved Reva's arc in this
mhm.
show in general. Like, I mean, like, if you guys have been watching our channel for a while, we are suckers for like the redemption arc. Like, we're suckers. Like, I love that story
Yeah.
so much. Like, and I love the evolution of it and the emotions that go through with it. And I really loved seeing her break down completely at the end of this episode in particular. Like we saw her fight Vader, right? And then she gets this message like, "Oh, there's a boy on Tatooine who's important and Owen and all this, right?" So she goes after him and I think she was going after to kind of prove to herself and to get kind of revenge on Obi-Wan as well cuz Obi-Wan kind of got in her head to go against Vader, right? In the last episode, he kind of got her to fight him and she
Mhm.
lost and she had no hope and then she succumbs to that revenge feeling, like she wants revenge, right?
I think
So,
also she felt like that was the only way to get her revenge at that point
yeah.
because, yeah, she tried to go after Vader and ultimately she failed that. So it's like, okay, I find out that about Luke and it's like, that would be like the perfect revenge in her mind. So yeah, I feel like that was her way of kind of saving her failed revenge.
Told him that. She was like, I wanted justice, like I
Yeah.
needed justice. And I loved how Obi-Wan says, "You showed mercy. You're not
Hmm.
like him because Anakin didn't do that. You didn't succumb to that feeling, that
Yeah.
dark side. You didn't succumb to the dark side. The light side went out with you." And,
Exactly. And it was
and
in like that moment that she like steered off that path
mhm.
and she wasn't, she didn't become like Anakin. Up to that point they were very, very similar. Um and yeah, I really do love her arc.
Her story is I'm so happy that they decided to delve into a survivor from Order 66 and that they decided to see what would happen if somebody survived seeing something like that because
Mhm.
when you think of what she saw, she lost all her friends.
Oh yeah, and she felt like she owed it to her friends to do something. And that's really where her revenge like plot I feel like came from. It really stemmed from the fact that those were her friends and she owes them justice.
And I think that, when you think of how traumatic something like that was, and that was her entire life at that point. Like she was so obviously heartbroken, terrified, and she wanted justice. And I love that the justice was letting somebody go. And for her to have to face a child like Luke, it just makes it even better because we know that Luke is the hope at the end. He's the one who
Mm.
is able to bring back Darth Vader to the light side. Like he brings back Anakin, right? So it's like not only did she get justice by showing mercy, but she also didn't kill someone who ended up saving the galaxy.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So
It's
like
true.
it's like so beautiful like when you think about it like hit and like what she showed there, that mercy, is what saved everybody in the end, because that person grew up to be a great person.
Yeah.
And yeah, it
I love
was,
how in that scene too it went back and forth. Like you're seeing her like relive that moment again where Anakin's standing there and then, you see her standing there in the same position about to kill an innocent.
yeah.
And yeah, she ended up making a different choice, which yeah, made all the difference.
I saw somebody was saying that we saw the arc that we saw, but not only with Darth Vader, but with back to Anakin, like seeing, we saw him as a Jedi, as a Padawan. We saw him in flashbacks. We saw him when he was fallen, as right when he first turned to the dark side during Order 66, which was the real turning point for him. And then we saw him again as Darth Vader. And like I really love that we saw like his entire arc in the show
Yeah.
as well, and how he just went down a bad hill, and God, like the way it all just came together, I can't get over it. I really
I'm just like I
can't.
want to rewatch. Like I'm just like, oh my gosh.
I
I
can't.
think it's gonna be really cool now to rewatch it like in a row from the beginning and not have to stop and watch it, just binge it.
Yeah. I
I
think
think
that's
that's like
it.
basically our thoughts. I'm surprised we were able to talk as coherently as we just did. I'm sure we'll think of other things we want to talk about, which we'll talk about in our live with you guys, and you can also talk all about what you're thinking as well. So that'll be a lot of fun. But definitely comment down below some of your thoughts.
Yes, we'd love to hear what you guys have to say.
And turn your notifications on. That way you can keep up to date with what time we're going to go live on Monday, probably around 7-ish. So just be on the lookout for that. We're very excited.
Yes. Thank you for watching.
Bye.
Bye.